Oh, hey friends. It has been so long. I know it has been such a long time. I have just been just resting. Like that's the best way I can put it. Like just really pouring my energy into things that like make sense, but also just like in this process of just like reevaluating like my next steps, like where I'm going and like what has actually been burdening my life, so then that way I can bring it to the forefront and actually release it. And so through that, like I have just been kind of like like on go on autopilot, and it has just been very like dishonoring to like where I am right now in my life. And so I had to just kind of like take a step back and figure out like what is getting my attention that is like draining me, like what am I pouring into that like is actually not serving me. And so in that, I am just making so many different changes in my life. I am just kind of like starting to just like branch out. Like one thing that I feel like has been like a hindrance to me, or just like my personal growth, or like just feeling like it's just like stifling me. Like I am just naturally a very creative person, and I think when I am in environments that like limit my ability to be creative, to be vocal, it is very like damaging just like to my spirit. And so I tend to like gravitate in the opposite direction. But a few months ago, like God told me to quit my job, and I'm like, the way these bills are set up and the way these kids work, like make it make sense. And so I was just like, I kind of like bargained with God a little bit. Like, well, at least I think I bargained with him, or I felt like I was getting the better end of the deal of just being like, okay, like maybe I'm not gonna quit my job, but like maybe I'll just go working to part-time. And so I like had the conversation with like my director, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go part-time, but your girl has not been working part-time hours. Like I feel like I got busier at work, and I'm just like, this is not what I want to do. And I was just like, what is going on? Like I like love the work that I do. Like I love serving people, like, and I feel like so rewarded in that. But it was more so in a sense of just feeling like, oh, like Stacey, like you're burned out. Like you're genuinely burning out, and there is no self-care. There is like no vacation that is going to like compensate for like you being burnt out, and not necessarily like in your work, but you're burned out with the idea of that you're not actually walking in your purpose. You're just like making things like happen or whatever for the sense of the paycheck. And if you guys know me, like, so I was in the porn industry, and one of the reasons why like I walked away is because like I was becoming somebody that like I promised myself that I wouldn't be. Like I always told myself that I would never do anything for money. And I got to this point where I was like super jaded, but I'm like, oh, I don't want to go to work, but I'm gonna get a fat check at the end of the day. And it's like, it's funny how like life like comes back around in that same sense of like, are you still honoring this truth of yours? And that's kind of where I'm at right now. And it's like God is like really like testing me of just being like, oh, okay, Stacey, like you say you want this, like you say you don't want to be this anymore and that you're not that anymore, but like, are you genuinely honoring yourself in that? And as I've just kind of like scaled back, like I've realized that like I have been a hindrance to my own life. And I think we all do, right? Like we say that we want growth and we want change, but like we're still clinging on to the old parts of ourselves that like doesn't want to make a shift to allow this to happen. And I was just like, okay, so if I'm falling short in this area, what other areas like am I also like hindering myself? And I've like really had to sit back and like figure out like there are still relationships in my life or whatever that I know don't serve a purpose, that I know aren't honoring like the growth and the work that I've been doing. And now it's come to the place where I'm just like, I have to safely surrender this right now. So then that way it's not actually going to be a detriment to the work that I have already been doing. And here's the thing, guys, like, we can do all the work in the world, right? But if you are still surrounding yourself with people, places, and habits that are adherents to that health, you aren't actually growing. Like, what you're doing is actually trying to make yourself comfortable in order to prevent change. And real change happens when you're okay with surrendering and releasing things and people, knowing that whatever space you're creating is going to put you in a position where more can pour out. But you can't grab a hold of like what's to come that actually propels you in a different direction if you're still holding on to your past. And so I had to like just really like sit down and be honest with myself. Like, one of the biggest things that I've been able to do just like on my healing journey that has actually helped me is, one, learning how to trust myself. And the way I learned how to trust myself was first being honest with myself. What was I feeling? Like, what did I genuinely need to release? Like, what sort of like behaviors or defense mechanisms or attachment issues were still like ingrained in me that prevented me from like actually reaching the level of self-awareness and self-love that I wanted to get to. And as I created this list, as painful as it has been, like, for reality for me, because you're just like, oh my God, like, I love this. Like, no, this like actually provides me a security. But the reality is like, your false sense of security is what's preventing you from healing. Like, everything that you feel is secure in your life that is still tied to your past is what's preventing you from moving into the next level. And so through that trust and like honoring myself and like honoring my emotions and honoring where I was still falling short on my healing journey, I was able to then begin trust myself, because I knew that I wasn't necessarily like clinging on to the fear of like letting go. Like, I knew that I had to make genuine changes in order to get me to the next level. And I get it, like, letting go takes practice. Like, it takes time. And as you continue to release bit by bit, you start to discover like how easy it gets, like how much easier the process works, because you're no longer clinging to things for fear. You're just like, okay, like, it is what it is. And just walking away with grace, because you know that if I open my hands, like, all that is going to be left is for me to have something else put in it. And so I just want to ask you, like, what in your life is preventing you from seeing yourself, from taking you to the next step, from preventing you from having meaningful relationships? You get to be in the place right now where, as you're healing and growing, that you get to align yourself with things that are also going to be in the next version of like who you're creating to be. So just remember, like, letting go is such a beautiful thing. And as you let go, you'll continue to invite things in you. You'll continue to invite things for you.